I'm going to give you 5 ways I overcame imposter syndrome in life, which helped me become a better entrepreneur and just overall better person. So if you can look back at some of my old videos, you can see that I wore my glasses. I didn't have my studs in. I didn't have a beard because I struggled with limiting beliefs because I grew up in the South. And anybody knows anything about the South, it's just kind of hard for minorities. And for me, I just felt a certain type of way because my skin was darker. I had to deal with things from my family members that were lighter than me. Just in general, I just felt like I had a harder time growing up. So it wasn't until I got into maybe my 20s when I got into entertainment and I started working as a model. And I started seeing a shift. And so I was like, I started getting paid because of my skin tone. I mean, like, I was racking up. And, you know, I cut my hair bald. That's when I started shaving my head. And so it just, for my agent was telling me, it made me look more exotic. And so I saw a shift in my belief system because here I was thinking that my skin tone was such a bad thing because I was in the South, but then I started making a ton of money. And so that kind of made a shift for me for imposter syndrome, because generally what imposter syndrome is a person that's doubting their abilities or thinking they're not good enough for whatever reason. So you just have this negative self-talk that prevents you from thinking what you're good at, you're actually good at, and or people want to listen to whatever you have to say based on whatever you think it is. So for some reason, just hearing all these different things from my family members and just, you know, getting treated a certain type of way, I just felt a certain type of way about my skin tone. And it wasn't again until I started making money. I mean, at one point, my agent was booking me for female gigs. Like, that's how crazy it got. So that's kind of what helped me shift. So what I want to do for you, I want to give you 5 ways that what worked for me. And I kind of mentioned it a lot in my other videos where I talk about reframing. So, you know, the experience that I had with being able to transition out of the thought process I had because I started making money in entertainment, that kind of stuck with me when I switched to a different industry, which was when I got in financial services. So when I switched from being in entertainment, because I was out of the system at that time, I was in the system, but more so just doing entertainment related stuff where people are a little bit more laxed, in my opinion. So when I got into financial services, when I got a job at the bank, that again also changed my perception because I didn't think I would be able to get a job at the bank. I remember at one point in time, I was sitting behind my desk and an older black man walked in and he was like, "It's good seeing one of us in here," right? That was another, you know, confirmation, like, all right, I'm in here now, right? I got a job in the bank. I got an office, which, you know, back in the day, that would never happen. So that was another shift for me in regards to, okay, like, you know, me being a certain way or me being a certain color doesn't really matter. I'm going to elaborate more on that in a few minutes. So with that being said, that was fine. I was working in banking and then I went from one bank to the next and I just kept getting promoted through the banking system. So I was like, okay, well, this is not hindering me from, you know, in the industry. I wasn't really doing well with my sales, but I still had this limiting belief, like, all right, it's working, but not fully, because I don't know. You see how I'm telling you I was struggling with it, and I still have doubts about how I end up coming up through the banking system. When I transitioned out of banking and started my own business, when I was doing videos on YouTube in the beginning, back in November 2019, you can see, like I said, I have my glasses on because here I am thinking, again, my skin tone, as you can see, I'm struggling with the fact of being black throughout these different phases in my lifetime just because of that. And what I realize now is that being in the system or being in the matrix is when you have that mindset, because when you're making your own money, when I started making my own money as a business owner, I was out of the system. I was no longer controlled by somebody else generating my income. So when you're limited to someone else writing your paycheck, it kind of holds you back. So like now, I don't give a shit what anybody thinks because I generate my own income. So I'm out of the system. As long as a person doesn't do anything to break the law and they have their own business, then they're going to be out of the system. Now it's just based on purely what you're doing for yourself in terms of bringing money in so you can pay your bills. That's kind of it. So you can just have a business that caters to black people if you want to, if you feel like you might have a limiting belief that certain other nationalities won't buy from you. So you see what I mean? So that's one way that you can get out of the system. But back to the imposter syndrome, I don't know what yours is. For me, that was mine. And so I got away from that because now I haven't worn my glasses in the video. I got I got a full beard. I'm wearing earrings sometimes in videos. I'm just more of who I am when I like, just when I'm just being me, and I'm not putting up some kind of facade, like, so I feel like people will like me or accept what I'm saying, just because the information that I provide based on my experience and based on what I've gone through is valuable. That's one of the things that you have to reframe in yourself in order for you to believe, like, how you get out of imposter syndrome. So that's gonna bring me to my first point: reframe negative self-talk. The reason why it helps is because limiting beliefs are one of the main key factors what hold people back. It's not even a fact of what someone else thinks, because you don't even know what someone else is thinking. You just in your mind are projecting your thoughts into another person, which is making you feel a certain type of way, and this person never said anything. A lot of times people have a issue with projecting. They just believe like, all right, well, this is how I feel about myself, and so this is how I'm assuming another person feels. Everyone's view of the world is based on their environment. So if your internal environment has these different, negative thought patterns, that's how you're going to perceive the entire world. So again, one of the things that I would say is reframe and shift your focus to what you've achieved rather than what you think you don't have. That's one of the benefits of being able to reframe. So I would go from saying, I'm not good enough or I don't deserve this success to I'm learning and growing every single day, and that's what makes me successful. Or I learned or I earned my place to be here because I worked hard. I learned all the information that I have and it's valuable. That's kind of how you got to reframe like the stuff that you're doing and being like, man, what if people don't like me? Or what if what I say don't matter? Or you can kind of gauge it if you got a lot of people coming to you for a specific thing, or maybe you the go-to person for advice or whatever it is. That's a good indicator that you are on the right path or that people do view you a certain type of way. So that's kind of one of the things that I would say should help you out. Like, keep a journal of your accomplishments. I don't do that, but I'm saying that's one of the things that you could do. But I will say, remind yourself of the progress that you're making. And that goes back to what I said. I went from having these feelings of like, I can't do this because I'm Black. And then I got into entertainment and I'm making a ton of money being a model. I mean, being on runways, doing Saks Fifth Avenue, spokesperson. I can go down the list of things that I was doing. Nike, Reebok, like it was crazy. And then I shifted from that to getting a job at the bank. So me getting a job at the bank was like, whoa. And this is in the South. Like, that's like, okay. And then from shifting that to now doing my own thing and then writing books and being on different podcasts and doing all the stuff that I've done, that's kind of what helped me, like, you are onto something. Like people mess with you like that. So that's one of the things that I did. One of the other things I will say is celebrate small wins. I, again, don't really do that. That's kind of hard for me to do, but that's not what would help me out with my imposter syndrome. Like, that could be something for you, but it goes back to what I just said. Maybe I did celebrate little wins because I would, when I did get into entertainment and I was making money, I was excited and I did go out and buy myself little things. So I think that's something you could do. Celebrate little wins by creating, I would say create some milestones to where if you do something out of your comfort zone that you didn't think you could do based on whatever your imposter syndrome is, that's something to celebrate. So recognize your success in that aspect. So I would say keep a journal. That could work for somebody. I have a good memory. Like, I can remember almost anything. So I don't necessarily got to keep a journal because I got a good memory. But for the people that are starting out that might not have that, keep a journal. And then break down your larger goals into smaller goals, create actionable tasks. So for example, instead of focusing on only launching a product, celebrate the steps to celebrate the steps to finalizing that, whatever that was, that prototype or that marketing strategy or whatever you created. Like if it's a website or whatever it was that you created, celebrate the fact that you got that accomplished. That'll help you feel like, all right, I'm moving in the right direction. Most people aren't doing that. I'm gonna tell you that. Most people aren't even getting to that point of where they even created a website or created a marketing strategy. So you're further along than most people, regardless of your skin tone. Like, it doesn't even matter. So that's another thing I'm gonna get to at one point in this video. Like, people have these limiting beliefs like, oh, this person's holding me back, or no one's holding you back. As long as you're in the system, as long as you're in the matrix, what they call it, you're going to be held back because there's someone that can always control whatever it is that you're doing. So most people don't get to the level where they're out of that situation. So again, reward yourself for hitting those milestones, whether it's treating yourself as something you enjoy or simply taking a moment to reflect on your progress. That's kind of step 2 of what I would do. And then number 3, seek out a support system. I think that's also what helped me out too, because when I was in the entertainment industry, I linked up with, I made friends. All my friends were black, straight up. I didn't have any friends of a different nationality, but when I got into modeling, I was literally the only black model. And then we had another girl who came along eventually, but it was just me and my entire agency. We had like 200 models, and I was signed with like multiple agencies in Orlando, Miami, just all over the place. And so I was kind of it. I was by myself in that aspect. So I ended up making friends with Asians, whites, people from Venezuela, which I had never experienced any of that before. So that's kind of what really changed my perception, is when I got to Florida and I was just around so many different cultures, and they were so receptive. So these people ended up becoming my friends. I would go to their house. One of my friends was Asian. His mom had a huge mansion, and I would be able to go over there and do things like that. So I started just being in a different environment of just being around people with money. And I would go to these, events at Blue Martini, like magazine or different event previews. And I was that guy. Like, I was the person. I remember at one point I was on a runway, and it was NBA players in the show. And at the end of the show, I had people just coming up to me. They were like, F these NBA players. They were rocking with me. And so these are other kind of things that I started experiencing that just started changing my whole entire perception around, being black, because I was the only black person at most of these events. And they were like, oh, come over here, take a picture with me, and do all these different things. So for me, that was like my support system, is that I had this network of people that were like, I never brought up what I was struggling with, but through me hanging out with them, that just kind of gave me like, all right, these people are rocking with me. Because growing up in the South in the 80s and the 90s, it was like, bro, you better be hanging out with this particular person, and you can't even be seen with this type of person. So to take it further back than that, it was worse than that. So I would say seek out a support system, and that goes to getting a mentor, peers, like I mentioned, or other people. If you're on an entrepreneurial journey, get into some kind of mastermind where you got other people that can provide a different perspective. So I'm giving you one right now, but you obviously are not riding around or gonna see me on a regular basis, and this is something that you're gonna struggle with or do struggle with right now, and it's not gonna go away with one video. I'm gonna obviously provide tools that'll kind of help with that, but you need to have another support system for those days where you're like feeling exactly, because it comes and goes. Like, even the most successful people that are entrepreneurs are gonna have days where they struggle with imposter syndrome, because they're going up the ladder. So the further you get in success in whatever it is, you're gonna start being around a different caliber of people. I remember at one point, one of my friends had he was a photographer. I became friends with him. He was the next door neighbor with John Travolta. This man had an airplane hangar connected to his house. So we went to his house to go do a photo shoot on a yacht. And he came to pick me up in like a yellow, beat up pickup truck. And then I get to his house. This man had an airplane hangar. We literally go downstairs to what I thought was a garage. It was a massive airplane hangar, and he had a runway strip leaving his house. And then you can see John Travolta's house right next to his, because he obviously, anyone that knows, he has a plane too. And I'm just like, whoa, I'm hanging out with these people. I'm on a yacht. It just really starts changing your perception. And so then I would hang out, and I met that photographer through another photographer that I knew that I was doing pro bono work for, and he was Asian. So you can just see how having a support system and being able to connect and link around other like-minded people will support you on your, getting out of this imposter syndrome. So how to do it: join some entrepreneurial networks, masterminds, online communities. Be open, share your feelings with trusted people. Like I said, I didn't do it, but through other ways, I was able to kind of change my thoughts around it. Share your own struggles with imposter syndrome with somebody. Doesn't matter who it is. You can tell your mom or your close friend. And most people talk about it. Like, I would talk about that kind of stuff with my friends that are black and be like, bro, I can't believe I'm doing this because I'm black, right? So that kind of led my friend to get into modeling, because he was kind of like, I wanted to get into that too, but I didn't think I could. So your journey of imposter syndrome and sharing it with somebody in your circle, in your network, it will also help them to break through with whatever they're struggling with. A lot of times people are just dealing with this and they might not know that's what it's called. People don't know that's what it's called, but like, it's a big thing. So surround yourself with people who celebrate you. So find somebody, get a girlfriend who's supportive, or even one of your friends, like I mentioned, my boys would be excited that I'm doing something, because the more I went up, when you have true friends, the more you grow, the more they're gonna grow too, because they're obviously looking at you as a model, but then they're also being able to go on places when you go on places, because now you have the money to be able to take them, or you might have a new experience that you can share with them so they can go with you the next time. I remember my first magazine gig that I had to go to was a premiere for a magazine that I was in. I was so terrified to go back because of what I just said. And I'm like, man, I'm gonna be the only black person here. I don't want to go. People gonna be looking at me crazy. So I got two of my friends. One of my friends, he was a ball player in Portugal, 6'9". He was black. I told him to come with me. And then I had another one of my friends come with me. So we both showed up. And then when we got there, it was completely different than what I thought. So here I am, my first time going to something like this. Even though I was making money in modeling, I did not think that I could go to an event like this and be comfortable. They came with me that first time around, and after that, I never asked them to come with me again, because I was like, I was that guy. And I realized that going, and so, for the rest of the time, I would ask people if they wanted to go, if it was a cool event, but I never had the need to be like, hey, I need somebody to go with me to one of these events because I don't feel comfortable. And so now I'm just like, I don't care what event I go to, and people wouldn't know this if they know me now, but this is me back when I was in my 20s. So people that know me now, when I go to an event, I'm all about it. Like, I'm networking, talking to everybody. I'm working the room, or more than likely, someone's coming up to me. Someone's always coming up to me at an event for whatever reason. But even if not, I'm always like going to the back and just sparking up conversations. And like I said, I wouldn't do this before because I wasn't confident in myself enough to go up to people at events because of what color they were. I would migrate. Like, people know if you're black or whatever nationality, there's tribalism. Like, a person will go where they feel most comfortable. So if you go to a room and there's only a black person in there, you're probably going to migrate to that person just because you have familiarity and you're comfortable with that person, and you guys have a commonality that you can share, which would obviously be black and being the only two in that particular environment. So I don't think that would be something that will change. But what I do now is, I don't care what color a person is, I'm gonna walk up to them and be able to have a conversation. So that feeling of having to have that comfort zone in that environment with that thing specifically, that barrier is gone. So that's one of those things that kind of helps with as you move up the ladder. So number 4, focus on providing value. And that goes back to what I just said. If you focus on providing value, you won't even care what the person looks like or anything, because you're like, I know what I bring to this world. I know what kind of value that I'm giving to this person. In my mind, I should have been like, when I was doing entertainment, I should have been like, oh, I'm making these people a whole ton of money. So that's kind of what I thought. I'm like, all right, they might be kissing my ass because I'm making them money, which they could have been. I don't know, but it didn't matter because they were. And then when I got into banking, I was killing it. I was top 5 banker in my position as far as sales go, as far as, bringing in solutions or products that we had to sell. I was killing it. But as I started going, like I told you in previous video, I mentioned people would come up to me and be like, they'll give me a book, or they'll provide me with something, or they would come up to me and say certain things. And I eventually got a mentor, maybe around 24 or 25. And then he started telling me the same thing. He kept telling me knowledge is the key. He said, I know you're a hustler. I know you do all these different things, but knowledge is really the key to making it and unlocking the door. And that's kind of why I'm saying you got to provide value. And in order for you to provide value, you have to be one step ahead of the other person. And you do that by educating yourself and learning and being an expert. So you got to figure out how to provide value. And if you're doing something like information selling or sales or whatever it is, it might not be entertainment, which I'm using that as an example because that's what really got me out of my imposter syndrome. I was providing value because I was bringing in money, and I was bringing in a lot of gigs to this agency that I was at. So they loved me because I was making their agency, their name was spreading. People were finding out more about them. So that's the value that I was providing when I was in the modeling world. And then when I got in banking, like I just said, I was killing it. So then when I became an entrepreneur, obviously I wrote a couple books. My podcast provide value. I'm hoping that this video that I'm giving you right now, or my content on YouTube, provides value. So that's like, I started seeing people come to me all the time and start giving me referrals for more business. And that let me know I was on the right path. When I was creating the mobile app, I had a bunch of people that wanted to come work for me for free and just take equity. That let me know I was on the right path. So there's different things or synchronicities that will happen in your life that will let you know you're on the right path. And you should keep doing that, because that will let you know that you're providing value in some way that is going to be like, all right, so that'll also help you like, you know what? I'm putting the work in. I'm good. So instead of obsessing over being perfect, I would say ask yourself, how can I solve my client's problem, or what impact am I making? That goes back to what I just said. So imposter syndrome is basically being overly self-critical, but not really, focusing on what you're doing to help someone out. So that one of the key ways of doing that is, like I just said, like, reframe, keep a value log where you write down examples of how you've helped people in business. And it goes back to what I said about journaling. You could also get testimonials and feedback from customers and clients. And hearing that, again, what I said, when I had clients referring people to me and stuff like that, it was just like, man, I'm killing it. And then I would have people give me reviews. That also started shaping my belief system more and more. So then I'm like, all right, I think I'm on to something. And now and most of my clients, I have a lot of clients that are Black, but then I also have clients that are overseas, from Israel, Persian, Mexican. I mean, they're all across the board. So if what I thought was my biggest issue was being Black, I wouldn't be able to share this stuff with you. If this was really an issue that was really holding me back, and if it was a real thing, I wouldn't be telling you about these Persians or anything that's not Black coming to me and asking for my help, or listening to my podcast. Like I mentioned the other day, I got people in Finland, Croatia, Germany. I mean, the list is far on how many people listen to my podcast. So I'm just giving you examples on why anything that you think is probably the exact opposite. So approach your imposter syndrome thinking like, whatever I'm thinking right now, what do I have that justifies my thoughts? If you don't have anything that can justify your thinking outside of you having maybe one or two bad experiences, then yeah. But if you have more good experiences that outweigh anything negative that happened in your life based on whatever this imposter syndrome is, then you need to change your mindset, right? That's what's really holding you back. That brings me to my fifth thing: embrace the growth mindset. Imposter syndrome thrives on fear and failure. Viewing challenges and opportunities to learn and grow helps you approach them with confidence rather than self-doubt. So back to what I said before, reframe mistakes as learning experiences. You have heard me in the past say, I reframe any bad experience that I have as a seminar. So I'm like, I'm not gonna go through that again. If I went through a situation to where I lost money on a deal, like I said before, I'm like, I paid $5,000 or $10,000 for that seminar, I'm not going again. So reframe your mistakes as something else. Like if a deal fell through, or I was working with a client and they didn't want to work with me, I'm not gonna be like, okay, this person doesn't want to do a deal with me because I'm Black. Maybe it was the terms. Maybe she didn't want, or maybe he didn't want 30-year loan with a 5-year prepayment penalty, or maybe they don't want to pay the $1,000 appraisal fee or the $800 appraisal fee. Maybe it was something like that. Maybe it didn't have anything to do with me, right? Maybe someone doesn't want to listen to 20 minutes in a YouTube video. That's why the video is not getting a lot of watch time. Like there's 1,000 different things on it being something that's not what's causing you to have imposter syndrome. So that's kind of how you got to look at stuff. Like, don't be like, all right, well, I'm going through this because I'm Black. No. Or I'm going through this because I'm Mexican, or because I'm a girl. No one gives a shit. No one gives a shit. I will tell you this. The only thing that people care about, and everyone should know this by now, is what you can provide me. What is in it for me? That's it. So if you go into a situation with that context, that is it. I don't care. No business owner cares what color you are if you can increase their bottom line 40 or 50%. If you can bring in more customers, if you can bring in more anything, if you can make a person's life better in any way, they can give a shit what you look like. And that's the thing I think that people have a hard time with. When you have a business, people think that a person doesn't want to hire somebody based on their skin tone. That ain't even the case. I remember at one point in time, I put out 500 to 600 applications. I had 10 people, maybe not even 10 people that were black. And I'm saying that to say a lot of times black people might think that a business doesn't want to hire them. But if you got 500 clients, or 500 applicants, and out of the 500, 10 were black, there's a very high chance that the other people are probably going to get that job, just because there's a more people of a different nationality that applied. So are you going to be like, all right, I'm just going to choose or select from these 10? Or are you going to try to look at the whole pool of 500 and see who would be the best candidate? Some of you might be like, well, you should look out for us. No, I'm gonna look out for my business. I'm gonna look out for what is going to feed my family and myself and make sure my business continues to grow. And that's kind of what the issue is with this whole DEI thing, because you might just be hiring someone based on you trying to fulfill a need of a DEI, and then that could hurt your bottom line. It could hurt your business. And so when you go out of business, are the DEI people gonna come over and write you a check and be like, oh, we're sorry that you hired some bad hires, but here you go? No one cares. A person only cares on what you can provide them. So keep that in mind. Think about the value that you're providing. If an alien sat down here and told you how to make $10 million in 30 seconds, are you gonna question the alien? If he's sitting up here, what? You're gonna be like, all right, bro, I'm gonna hit them comments. First of all, that's what you're gonna do. You're gonna hit them comments and first see what people got to say, and then you're gonna probably go on Google and see if what he's telling is true, if there's something to back it up. But you're not gonna trip. You might trip for the first 3 minutes, but then after that, you're gonna get over it, right? You're gonna get over the fact that this person's an alien that just told you how to make $10 million. So that's a very, very, crazy example, but I'm just saying that's how you gotta look at it, because that's really what it is. Most people just want to know what you can do for them. And it sucks that it's that way, but I understand, right? I get it. So that's a hell of a reframe for you to think how to get out of your situation with imposter syndrome. So when you're doing anything, whatever business it is, whatever it is in life, just be like, what kind of value am I providing? And is this person still gonna rock with me because I just went above and beyond? So regardless of what I look like, they're like, damn, that was so good, I still gotta do it. So I would also say set realistic expectations for yourself. Success doesn't happen overnight. Give yourself permission to grow and make progress at your own pace. One thing that I always do too, I'm a firm believer in gratitude. So, anytime I get away from gratitude for what I've done in life, I kind of, drop back into thinking certain things or having negative thoughts. So one of the best ways to keep going in forward progress with moving out of imposter syndrome is engage in regular reflection. Track how far you've come by reviewing past challenges you've overcame and skills you've gained along the way. So that's kind of what I do too. Sometimes since I don't do those small wins, I'll run hot for a long time, and then I'll hit a period where I'm just like kind of feeling down about whatever's going on, because I might hit a rough patch, man. Like, business goes like this. So if you're not always in a state of gratitude or in that state, you're going to hit a rough patch. And then you just got to be able to reflect back somehow to get yourself out of that situation. Because you might be like, damn, man, you 5 years into the business and you get to the point of where you might be trying to hit 10 million and you're around different people. You might be like, damn, man, these people are at, 10 or $15 million a year and I'm stuck at 5. It's because I'm this or because of that. Then you kind of like relegate yourself back to a situation that is really not true. If you're stuck at 5 million or 10 million, that's the standard. Like, you're going to have a hard ass time until you reach $1 million. Once you reach $1 million, then you'll be able to get past that. You might be able to get to 5, but 1 million and 10 million is hella hard. I haven't hit 10. So I'm just saying there's certain things that I just have to change. It's not a reflection of me as a black person. Obviously it's not. It's just, what am I doing as far as systems and processes in my business that I have to change? Or do I need to hire better people? There's something that's going on in my business that's preventing me from hitting $10 million. Generating more and more revenue because I'm not getting funded also hurts. So I don't have a bunch of money that I can dump into marketing or different things that'll steamroll more people coming into the business that'll help generate more revenue. So I have to figure out doing different things like YouTube videos or doing podcasts or making sure I do really, really specific hiring of great loan officers who can generate more revenue. So it's things like that. So it's not, again, my skin tone that's causing me from not hitting 10 million. So that's what I mean. You just got to reflect back on what you've done and not relegate yourself to this is what it is. And this is why I'm not doing this or that or whatever the case is. So these are the 5 things that I said. I want to go back through them again. Reframe negative self-talk. Celebrate small wins. Seek out a support system. Focus on providing value, and embrace the growth mindset. Those are the things that I think you should do, because it's going to help reframe a lot of things in your life. And that's how you're really going to get out of imposter syndrome, because you're like, man, every business goes through this. Everybody goes through this in life. Like, there's literally nothing new under the sun. Like, when the Bible says that, that's straight up 100%. And you can see that if you just go back in history and you look at what happened in the Roman days when that empire collapsed. Look at what's going on in the U.S. as far as their economics is going. I mean, these are the things that I'm saying. So I will say this: remember that even the most successful entrepreneurs experience imposter syndrome. It's a sign that you're stepping out of your comfort zone and growing. Trust in your journey, stay consistent, and keep reminding yourself of the value that you bring. That tries to tie it all in of what I said and give you in my experiences. That's what it is. So think like that. Use those 5 steps, and I promise you, you won't have to deal with imposter syndrome on a daily basis. It'll just be something that's fleeting, and when it does happen, you have the tools to be able to get out of it. I hope you guys find it helpful. Until next time.